But I think being grateful probably is number one. If you've got a job, you got to be grateful. Say, this isn't the greatest job in the world. Even if it's a transitional job getting you where you want to go, you got to be grateful. You don't have to love your job or be passionate about your job. Just passionate about staying steady, working hard, learning skills, doing this job so well that the next one will be even better, and taking such good care of this opportunity, another one will present itself. If you have an extreme desire to wish to be successful, so you can accomplish all you wish to accomplish, be as generous as you'd like to be as strong as you'd like to be. And I think if you say you have to find your passion, people find that a little bit confusing. Where would I find it? And what could I be passionate about? I guess you could start with saying, I'm passionate about providing unusual success for myself and for my family. Then I think the key is to let what you want to accomplish, let that grow. Or at first, this is as far as you can see. But if you'll do that, you can say, wow, maybe I could multiply by 2, by 3, and expand my vision, accomplish a lot more.
Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline: self-worth, self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to disciplines. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit, right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough, you say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. Value makes the difference. You can't get more time, but you can create more value. Now, here's the first lesson of economics. Everybody should learn it from the time they're old enough to understand what a dollar means, how to earn one, how to get one, how to keep one, what to do with it. First lesson of economics. We primarily get paid for value. That's lesson 1. Bringing value to the marketplace. That's how you get paid.
I'm motivated by fear.
Fear.
You know?
Fear of what?
Fear of fear. I hate being scared to do something.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling of the feeling that I had before I had a meeting with Quincy Jones, because it was really Quincy Jones and a guy named Benny Medina and Jeff Pollock came with the idea for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I hated being scared, you know, that I didn't want to even take the meeting. There were opportunities during when my first year as a rapper. Bill Cosby and the people on the Cosby Show had seen my music video and called me to
be a character
to come and try out for the Cosby Show. And just every time it was set up, for some reason I couldn't make it.
The fear of fear.
The fear. I just hated that, being scared to do something. And I think what developed in my early days was the attitude that I started attacking things that I was scared.
There is ridiculous confusion in the system. I am winning and will win at all time levels. Get ready. You will tell your grandkids that you once saw me live. Like, I mean that. And by the way, it's not because, by the way, real quick, because I don't want claps for that. I need you to understand how I think about that. It's not because I think I'm fancy or great. I think it's because I'm very calm and simple about one simple, tiny thing: underpriced attention. It's so grossly underpriced. I'm asking you, let me tell you this story about MTV. When MTV came out in the early to mid 80s, how many people remember when MTV was launched? When MTV was launched, the biggest bands in the world got together for a dinner that one of their managers told me about and decided that they would not make music videos for MTV because that was giving away music for free. That why would we spend money to make a video, put it on MTV, when that's giving people the music for free and they will not go out and buy the record. At the same token, up and coming artists, Madonna, Duran Duran, and on, understood that it was where all the attention of the youth was, and it was a gateway drug to the sale. They understood that MTV was a jab, not the right hook. Facebook and Instagram at this second is the most underpriced scaled jab in the history of marketing, except for one other moment. From 2001 to 2005, Google AdWords was a ridiculously underpriced jab. How many people here took advantage of Google 2001 to 2005? Raise your hands. So for you really know. That's how I did it. Wine Library had no money, but when you're buying people who want to buy wine for 5 and 10 cents a click, it works out real fast when it's that underpriced. One company during that time acted the way I'm aspiring to act right now as Gary Vaynerchuk on social media. One company from 2001 to 2005 spent enough to justify how underpriced it was. That company was a small book company called Amazon. Amazon, as you all know now, is the company of our world. It will win everything. It hasn't even begun. Literally the only thing that will stop Amazon is antitrust government involvement. Otherwise, it will destroy everything. It got its fuel from Google 2001 to 2005. That occurrence is happening right now on Facebook and Instagram, and we're not squeezing the juice out of that fruit anywhere close. At least we have picked up the fruit.
The goal, if you own a business, and I would assume a lot of your viewers are business owners or getting started in business, no matter how good you are in business, think about this. The one universal rule that idiots in finance know is diversification. It's the only free lunch. You gotta diversify. Because if you put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how good the basket is, one day that real estate market, that stock market, that bond market, that collectibles market, whatever you invest in, Ray Dalio showed me statistically, it'll drop 50 to 70% on a day. Now, if you're later in life when that happens, it's over for you. Right. So you have to diversify, and yet most people, they know real estate, so they do it, or they know stocks, so they do it, or they grew up with their parents flipping things, and it's the wrong thing to do. Mm-hmm. So you've got to diversify in order for you to be able to truly succeed, and that's why when you own a business, if you put all your money in your business, which is what most of us do naturally,
it's a lot of risk.
You put all your eggs in one basket, and there's things that can happen. I mean, you know, let's say you spent 20 years and you figured out how to put together the ultimate map, you know, and you remember Garmin came out with this thing called the TomTom. I don't know if you remember, you used to put on your, are you old enough to remember that? You used to put on your phone? Or you used to put on your dash? Cost $100. It was a breakthrough.
They were making like 100 million or something.
They were. 6 months later, what happened?
The iPhone came out with Google Maps.
These little bastards, excuse my French, came out with it, put Google Maps, put their own map on here, and it costs how much? $0. What's that gonna do to your business when someone takes your product or service and gives it away for free? So I always tell people, competition happens, technology happens. What you must do is have a second business with no moving parts, no people, no time. Maybe it takes you 3 days a year for 2 or 3 hours after you've read the book. You put it in place and you measure it 2 or 3 times a year. That's it. Go on with your life. Now, if there's a trouble in your business, you're financially set. In my life, I have 31 companies now. We have, you know, what do we have? 1,200 employees, 7 different industries. We do $5 billion in sales. I mean, that used to be, you know, me and my seminar business. It's grown geometrically. But with all those moving parts, the only way I've been able to succeed is because I've taken every one of those businesses and I've diversified my assets so that when things were in trouble, I still have enough economics to take care of myself and keep the business going. So everybody needs to create a money machine that works while you sleep, that doesn't have moving parts, and that's what this is really about.
I had a plumber once, you know. It was the night before we were putting drywall in our house. We were redoing a house, and he had put in all the plastic piping, you know. And I was going to test the joints. They're supposed to be glued together with this pipe glue, right? And I told him I had to test the joints, and he said, well, you don't have to test my joints, they never leak. And I thought, yeah, that's okay. How about if I test them? So I went up on the 3rd floor and filled the pipes with water, capping them in the basement like you're supposed to. And like half an hour later, I had 2 inches of water in the basement. There were 30 leaking joints. And that was the night before the drywallers were supposed to show up. So he wasn't particularly competent. That's the point of that story. But even more so, he had put a bunch of the plastic pipe outside where the drywall would be, so it would have been sticking through the wall. So I spent a frenetic night, you know, sawing through plastic pipe and re-gluing joints so that the drywallers could come in. What's the point? If you're going to be a plumber, man, be a good plumber, because otherwise all you do is go out there and cause trouble. We don't need people to cause more trouble. We need people to solve problems. You know, and so you can be a tradesman, and you can make a lot of money as a tradesperson. It's a bloody, reliable, honorable, forthright, productive way of making a living. And there is a hell of a lot of difference between a working man who knows what he's doing and one who doesn't, both in terms of skill and ethics, right? And you work with someone who knows what they're doing, it's a bloody pleasure. They tell you what they're going to do, they tell you how much it will cost, they go and do it, it works, and you pay them. Perfect. Everyone's happy. And that's what happens when you have genuine hierarchies of competence. And so you listen to these panderers of egalitarianism and equity, and they fail to recognize completely that there are differences in rank between people. It's not such a terrible thing, man. Maybe you wouldn't be a great lawyer. Like, it's certainly possible. Most people aren't. But that doesn't mean there isn't something you could be great at. There's lots of hierarchies to attempt to climb, and if you fail in one, go try in another. But the point is, you're still trying to aim for the top. And what the hell are you going to do if you don't try to aim for the top? You know, flap about uselessly and whine about your life? It's not helpful. It'll just make you miserable. You're not reliable to anyone. You can't help out in a crisis. It's like, so you tell young people, and this is another message for conservatives, like, I don't care what you're going to do, but go out there and make something of yourself for God's sake. Be an honest person and work and get to the top of whatever it is that you want to get to the top of. You know, and stand up for yourself like a respectable human being, and be a bit of a light on the world instead of a blight. You know, and you can tell young people that, and they haven't been told that by anyone now. And so the young men are so hungry for that it's painful to watch. They're so relieved when someone finally comes up and says, hey, you know, you get your act together a bit, discipline yourself, see if you can learn to tell the truth, concentrate on something for a year or two, you could be a bloody world beater. They think, really? That's possible? Wow, that would be interesting. That might make life worth living. It's like, yeah, it might. So why don't you go do it? That's what the damn universities were supposed to be teaching people, and they've forgotten that. I went to Harvard a month and a half. I used to teach there. And I talked to a bunch of students, you know, and I told them, it's not easy to get into Harvard, you know. Like, you're a valedictorian if you're at Harvard. And not only are you a valedictorian, you're way better than most people at least 2 other things, or you don't get in. And so, like, I don't know what the acceptance rate is, like 5%, and believe me, not everybody applies, so it's a very selective school. And so why am I saying that? It's like, these are high-quality kids. So I told them what I just told you. It's like, here you are at Harvard. It's like, get yourself educated, man. Read some books, learn to talk, learn to think. Make yourself into something. Get the hell out there and make the world that put you here happy that you were put there in that great institution. You know, and they came up to me afterwards and said, God, I wish someone would have told us that when we were in our first year. It's like, Jesus, why didn't someone tell them that? For God's sake, it's supposed to be the greatest university in the world. Is it so difficult to figure that out?